Hey, what's up? It's Todd, and today I want to take a lot of those decisions and actions that women make that seem to make no sense whatsoever, and I want to make them make sense. Now that sounds like a bold claim, but I have been talking to girls in a dating capacity for about 2 decades now, and I've had a lot of experiences. I've learned a lot about the world, about myself, and I've learned a ton about women. You see, when you get better with women, you get to see a lot of things, you're just around women a lot. Also, women start acting differently around you because they assume certain things about you. So you get kind of a window into the female minds that most men don't get. So what I want to do right now is I'm going to share with you 3 specific stories that happened to me. I'll start with the least shocking and go to the most shocking. But these all illustrate particular qualities of women that I hope are going to help you to understand them and communicate better with them for the rest of your life. First story I want to share with you involves my first serious girlfriend ever. And it was actually, I think, the second time we'd ever hung out, and we're in bed, we're fooling around, we're close to sex, and she doesn't seem quite ready to have sex with me. There seems to be something, something on her mind or something keeping her from wanting to have sex. And we're just like fooling around. There's nothing pushy going on. It's just everybody's having a good time, whatever. And then all of a sudden, she just stops everything cold, looks straight at me and goes, "Hey, what's your middle name?" I tell her my middle name, and then she jumps on me and proceeds to immediately have sex with me. And it may not be a particularly shocking story to you, and it shouldn't be. If you're pretty good with girls, it really shouldn't be, because I've had even more arbitrary ones than this. I've had girls ask me my favorite color and feel like they know me better. I've had girls ask my sign and feel like suddenly they know me because of it. Different things like that. It's not an uncommon thing, but it is very irrational. It's completely irrational, right? She already knew my full name. She already knows we go to the same school in this case. It's not like she needs that information to find me in any way or whatever. It's not like I haven't disclosed other personal details, but to her in particular, it felt slutty to her if she had sex with me without knowing my middle name, felt completely normal and like we were, an item or together, or she wasn't slutty if she knew my middle name. And it's a completely arbitrary thing, but to her, it had symbolic importance. And you'll find this with a lot of girls. A lot of girls will have a particular thing that has symbolic importance. Some girls, if you buy them a drink, then they'll go home with you, whereas if you refuse to buy them a drink, they won't. And this messes up a lot of guys who have been told never to buy a girl a drink, for example. But different girls have different symbols, and if you can figure out what the symbolic things are for girls, you can figure out what that symbolic blueprint is, you're going to do much, much, much better. But the thing I do want to point out to you is this is not a logical, rational thing. It is an emotional thing. She feels an emotional tie to a particular fact because she has given some symbolism to it. Second story I want to tell you is a more unique situation. So here I'm in London, I'm talking to a girl, she has a friend is talking to an Italian guy. Both girls seem to like both guys, and we're about this close to taking them home until the Italian guy makes a mistake, whatever, ends up just taking a number and leaving, and now the other girl is left kind of by herself, no guy, and is like, oh, let's go find our other friends. So now I'm dragged back to the other friends. And the girl I'm talking to likes me a lot. The girl who met me with the Italian guy is okay with me, but doesn't really know me very well, so kind of is on the border. The other friends are like, I don't like this guy, he's old. Because you see, again, drinking age is younger in London, so the girl was actually 19, I was in my 30s. So there's a big gap. And since the friends saw me as a random guy, didn't necessarily know I was cool yet, they're like, ew, he's old. And what was very telling and very interesting to hear was the girl's response. She said, and this is a direct quote, "I don't care as long as he's drinking as much as I am." And that is fucking crazy, because that has nothing to do with age whatsoever, at least on the surface. Has nothing to do with I'm in my 30s, she's 19, has nothing to do with age, but it does though, because what she's saying is emotionally, she doesn't care logically about age. And this is something I tell a lot of guys when I have students who are older guys and like meeting younger girls, that age per se doesn't matter, but it does matter symbolically and it does matter by association. And so in this particular case, what she's saying is, I don't care as long as I feel like he's in the experience with me and having fun, and not just some guy like trying to like take advantage of the fact that he's older and wiser than me, so to speak, right? As long as he's on the same level and he's acting in a fun way and participating in the experience as opposed to having an agenda, I'm fine with it. But if he has an agenda, then I'm not okay with it. But it is so funny, again, how the symbolic idea of are you drinking or not with her is somehow related in her mind to the idea of age. They're completely unrelated. There is no direct logical connection, but emotionally there is a connection because they're both tied to that same idea of, is he the guy who like has his shit together and is like coherent and sober, and you're the young, impressionable drunk girl? Does that make sense? As long as you're in the same experience, as long as you're having fun with her, as long as you're on the same level, she's fine with it. If there's an apparent agenda, she wouldn't be fine with it. And little like Spoiler for you, had it not been an age thing and there been a different objection, you would have the same idea of a gender, right? Age just happens to be the chosen reason in this case, but it could be anything in a different case. So again, we have this illogical kind of association based on emotion and based on symbols in the girl's head. The third story is perhaps the most surprising. See, I had learned something in doing online dating for years, which was that as I made my profile more polarizing, more sort of like attention grabbing in kind of an asshole way, I had gotten sometimes more results, but at the very least, more results with hotter girls. And so I decided to take this to the absolute extreme and see if you took it to the point of ridiculously polarizing, what would happen. So what I did is I created a profile where the entire profile was a link to my YouTube channel, and then it basically said, I'm already dating an amazing bisexual girl. You have no chance of replacing her. Sign on if you're willing to be shared by us, you're willing to be just friends, and by the way, that means I will sleep with your friends, or if you're a tourist leaving town within a week. So it was pretty polarizing, this profile. And expectedly, I got a lot of girls not responding. I got some girls saying I was what's wrong with men and all kinds of shit like that. And then I got a few responses. The funny thing was the few responses I got tended to be extremely strong, extremely positive, and pretty much the let's have sex now kind of responses. One in particular, though, that stands out was I got a long, like pages response from a girl, and essentially it said, so listen, I'm so glad I saw your profile. I'm actually dating this guy, amazing doctor, he's overseas, I love him, I think we're gonna maybe get married, etc. But I'm worried that if I'm jealous or needy, he might start to like not be as attracted to me. And so I just feel like I really need to have sex with you for the good of my relationship. And that's just fucking crazy. Because I guarantee you that if you were to ask him if she should have sex with me for the good of her relationship, his answer would definitely have been no. And it's very interesting because she needed to rationalize it somehow. She couldn't have just said, hey, let's meet up for a drink or something like that. She needed to give herself this story to symbolize it as being good for her relationship. And funny enough, she needed me to know the story and she wanted to share it with me rather than just, again, showing up on that level. So it's very interesting how much that this story and the idea of it meant to her, when clearly she's pretty much just, she's attracted, she wants to see me, she wants to have sex, and she's rationalizing it a different way. But again, doesn't seem to make a lot of logical sense, but it does make a lot of emotional sense when you look at it in terms of evolutionary psychology, female impulses, those kinds of things. So the point I want to make to you with all of these stories is that girls make decisions emotionally and justify them rationally. And actually, this is true for all people. People in general make decisions emotionally and justify them rationally. However, because women's priorities and model of the world is different than ours as men, when we are communicating with women, oftentimes their justifications and rationalizations seem crazy to us. They seem out there and outlandish, but they do make sense when you think about them in terms of evolutionary psychology, when you do think about them in terms of the different pressures to help our offspring, the different pressures to seek good genetics, the different pressures that existed in the evolutionary environment, and the very pressures that have existed us to survive as humans for this long. And these are three examples that are verbal in nature. They're three examples of specific things girls said that conveyed their underlying psychology, the underlying way that they were thinking. And it's very interesting because the longer you talk to girls and the more experience you get, the more examples like this you're going to see, and the more you're going to see that the things that you say will affect them in a very different way than you might expect in a man-to-man context, and that a lot of times what you're conveying when you talk to women is not just what you're doing on a literal level, it's all the symbolism, all the emotional connotations, and those kind of things behind the scene. So we're going to be talking a lot more on this channel about those types of things going forward, how your verbals, how the things you say mean a lot more than face value.